The envelope felt heavy in my hands, despite containing just a single sheet of paper. My father's stern expression told me everything I needed to know before I even opened it. This wasn't going to be a Merry Christmas Eve. I'm Zuriel, and this was the moment my family decided I wasn't worth keeping around. Well, aren't you going to open it? My sister Michaela's sugary sweet voice cut through the tension in our family's living room. She sat perched on the arm of Mom's favorite leather chair, already wearing the diamond bracelet they'd given her moments earlier. The crackling fireplace and twinkling Christmas tree felt like a mockery now. I carefully broke the seal, aware of 4 pairs of eyes boring into me. The lawyer, Ernest, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Not exactly your typical holiday guest. I don't understand, I said, my voice surprisingly steady as I read the document. You're cutting me out of the will completely? Mom, Vanessa to her society friends didn't even look up from her wine glass. It's for the best, dear. You've made your choices and we've made ours. My choices? I laughed, but it came out hollow. You mean starting my own business instead of joining the family company? A bakery. Dad's voice dripped with disdain. We spent a fortune on your education, and you want to spend your life making cupcakes. They're not just cupcakes, Dad. It's my dream. Dreams don't pay bills. He cut me off. Michaela understands responsibility. She's already showing real promise at the firm. My sister's smirk grew wider. Don't be dramatic, Zuri. You knew this was coming. I mean, what did you expect? I folded the paper carefully, my hands trembling slightly. The Christmas tree lights reflected off the glossy paper, creating dancing patterns that reminded me of the sparklers we used to wave around as kids, back when family meant something different. Actually, I stood up, smoothing my dress. I expected better from my parents. Silly me. Now, Zuriel, Ernest intervened. Perhaps we could discuss this after the holidays. There's nothing to discuss. Mom's voice was ice. The decision is final. I walked to the coat rack, pulling on my winter jacket. The wool felt scratchy against my neck, or maybe that was just the lump forming in my throat. Where are you going? Dad demanded. We haven't even had dinner yet. I've lost my appetite. I reached for my purse, pausing at the doorway. You know what's funny? You all think you're punishing me, but really... I smiled, thinking about the secret I'd been keeping. You might be punishing yourselves more than you realize. What's that supposed to mean? Michaela stood up, her perfectly manicured brows furrowing. Merry Christmas, I said, ignoring her question. And good luck. Something tells me you're going to need it. The heavy oak door closed behind me with a satisfying thud. Outside, snow was falling softly, muffling the sound of Christmas carols drifting from neighboring houses. I pulled out my phone and dialed a familiar number. Natasha? Yeah, it's done. They did exactly what we expected. I walked to my car, boots crunching in the fresh snow. No, I'm okay. Actually, I'm better than okay. Remember that thing we talked about? I think it's time. As I drove away from my childhood home, I couldn't help but smile. They thought they were writing me out of their story, but they had no idea. I was about to become the author of their downfall. My phone buzzed with a text from Michaela. Hope you're happy with yourself. You've ruined Christmas. I typed back quickly. On the contrary, sis, this is the best Christmas gift I could have gotten. Freedom. Turning onto the main road, I headed toward downtown, where my real future waited. The family might have their precious will, but I had something better. A plan. And thanks to their own oversight, I had the means to execute it perfectly. The vacation house they'd carelessly left in my name years ago would fund my dreams, and their nightmare. They just didn't know it yet. Some legacies aren't inherited, I whispered to myself, watching the family mansion shrink in my rearview mirror. They're built from scratch, just like the perfect cake. The snow kept falling, covering my tire tracks, erasing any trace of my presence from their perfectly manicured driveway. By this time next year, everything would be different, and I couldn't wait to serve them their just desserts. 3 months earlier, I stood in front of the lakeside vacation house, key in hand, while Natasha whistled low beside me. And they seriously forgot this was in your name? She ran her hand along the pristine siding. A whole-ass vacation house? Dad put it in my name 5 years ago for tax purposes. I unlocked the door, breathing in the musty air. They haven't used it in 3 years, probably don't even remember it exists. The interior was exactly as I remembered. All pine furniture and nautical decorations, frozen in time like a perfectly preserved museum of family memories I no longer wanted. How much do you think it's worth? Natasha asked, peeking through the lakefront windows. I pulled out my phone, showing her the realtor's estimate. Her eyes widened. Holy shit, Zuriel. That's enough to open my bakery and then some. I smiled, running my fingers along the dusty kitchen counter. The down payment, equipment, first year's rent, everything. Your parents are going to lose their minds when they find out. That's the best part. They won't find out until it's too late. I opened the fridge, grimacing at the ancient condiments inside. The property transfer was legal. They signed it over to me fair and square. Natasha flopped onto the couch, sending up a cloud of dust. Okay, walk me through this master plan of yours again. Simple. I sell the house, use the money to open the Dreamweaver bakery, and still think that name's a bit much. Shut up, it's perfect. I threw a dusty throw pillow at her. Anyway, I open the bakery, establish myself, and wait. Wait for what? For karma to do its thing. I sat beside her. See, what my family doesn't know is that their precious company is in trouble. Big trouble. How do you know that? Remember my friend Brett? He works in commercial banking. Let's just say their last loan application wasn't exactly approved. The next few weeks were a blur of real estate agents, paperwork, and secret meetings. The house sold faster than expected. Turns out lakefront property is quite desirable, even in need of updating. You're really doing this, Brett said over coffee one morning, reviewing my business plan. I've got to admit, when you first mentioned it, I thought you were just venting. People always underestimate me, I replied, sliding him a sample of my latest recipe. Try this. He took a bite of the lavender honey cake and closed his eyes. Okay, scratch that. You're definitely doing this. This is incredible. That's not even my best recipe. I pulled out my laptop, showing him the location I'd found. What do you think? Downtown, high foot traffic, reasonable rent. He nodded approvingly. You've done your homework, but are you sure you want to burn this bridge with your family? They burned it first. I closed the laptop firmly. Besides, this isn't about revenge. It's about finally doing something for myself. But even as I said it, I couldn't ignore the satisfaction I felt knowing what was coming. The day I signed the lease, Natasha brought champagne to the empty storefront. We sat on the floor, drinking from paper cups. To the Dreamweaver, she toasted. May your revenge be as sweet as your pastries. It's not revenge, I protested weakly. Honey, you're literally using their forgotten vacation house to fund your independence while they're about to face financial ruin. That's some premium revenge right there. I couldn't argue with that. The contractors started work the next day, transforming the space into my vision. Every decision felt like a step further from my family's shadow. The warm copper light fixtures, the exposed brick walls, the custom display cases. The morning we installed the sign, I stood across the street, watching the gold letters catch the sunlight. The Dreamweaver Bakery and Cafe. My dream. My name. My rules. My phone buzzed. A text from Michaela. Mom and Dad are worried about you. They say you're not returning their calls. I typed back. Been busy. Big things happening. Whatever. Just don't come crying to us when your little hobby fails. I smiled, pocketing my phone as the first delivery of professional equipment arrived. Let them think I was playing at business. Let them dismiss me one last time. Where do you want the ovens? The delivery man called out. Against that wall, I pointed, where everyone walking by can see them through the windows. Because that was part of the plan too, letting success speak for itself. In 3 months, this place would be impossible to ignore, especially from the windows of my family's law firm just 2 blocks away. The sweet smell of karma was already in the air, and soon it would be baking. We've got another line out the door. Sarah, my newest hire, called from the front, and 3 more wedding cake consultations just booked online. I wiped the flour from my hands and peeked through the kitchen door. The morning sun streamed through our front windows, illuminating a queue of eager customers that stretched past the neighboring shops. 3 months in, and the Dreamweaver had become the talk of downtown. Your red velvet cake just got featured on Food & Wine's Instagram, Brett announced, walking in through the back door. He'd taken to stopping by most mornings, usually with local business news and a hungry look in his eyes. Here. I handed him a fresh cranberry orange scone. Payment for being my unofficial business advisor. Speaking of business, he lowered his voice, glancing around. Word on the street is your family's firm isn't doing so hot. They've had to let go of 3 junior partners already. I concentrated on piping delicate roses onto a wedding cake sample. Is that so? You know, most people would feel bad about their family struggling. Most people's families wouldn't disown them over following their dreams. I set down the piping bag. Besides, I warned them, sort of. The bell above the door chimed, and I heard Natasha's familiar laugh. Oh my God, you have to see this, she called out, waving her phone. The local paper just published their Best of Downtown list. Guess who's number 1 in the food category? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Michaela's name flashed on the screen. Well, well, I muttered, answering. To what do I owe the pleasure? Is it true? She didn't bother with hello. You're the one who bought that building on 3rd Street? I smiled, remembering the offer I'd made last week. The success of the Dreamweaver had left me with enough capital to start investing in real estate. Actually, I'm in the process of buying 3 buildings on 3rd Street. Why? She paused. That's where Dad was planning to expand the firm. Oh, really? I sprinkled edible gold dust on a batch of macarons. Guess he'll have to find somewhere else. Property values are crazy downtown these days. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Doing what? Running a successful business? Making smart investments? Isn't that what you all wanted me to do? The line went quiet for a moment. Mom wants to know if you'll come to dinner next week. Sorry, can't. I'm catering the mayor's daughter's wedding. But hey, feel free to stop by the bakery sometime. We make an amazing humble pie. After hanging up, I turned to find Brett and Natasha staring at me. That was cold, Brett said, but he was grinning. That was perfect, Natasha corrected. But you never told me about the buildings on 3rd Street. Because I just finalized the paperwork this morning. I pulled out a folder from under the counter. 3 historic buildings, prime location, and guess who's going to be my first tenant? Who? That artisanal coffee roaster you love. They're opening their flagship store. I showed them the lease agreement. Between their rent and the Dreamweaver's profits, I'll be able to buy 2 more properties by year's end. While your family's firm downsizes, Brett mused. That's some masterful chess you're playing. A commotion from the front interrupted us. Through the kitchen window, I spotted my mother's perfectly coiffed hair in the crowd. Speaking of chess, I muttered. Showtime! I stepped into the front, watching as she took in the bustling cafe, the elegant decor, the happy customers. Her expression shifted from disdain to surprise to something that looked almost like regret. Zuriel, she said stiffly. This is unexpected. Hi, Mom. What can I get you? Our signature dream cake is featured in Food & Wine this month. She flinched at my casual tone. Your father and I need to discuss something with you. Something important. I'm pretty busy here. I gestured to the full cafe. You know how it is, running a successful business and all. Please, she said, and for the first time in years, I heard a crack in her perfect facade. It's about the firm. We need your help. I let the words hang in the air, savoring them like the perfect bite of dessert. Behind her, Natasha was practically vibrating with anticipation. Well, I said finally, I do have a cancellation for my last appointment today. I could meet you at 5. I paused, then added with a sweet smile, At my office, of course. Mom's eyes darted around the bakery. My bakery, and she nodded stiffly. As she left, Natasha sidled up to me. You're going to make them grovel, right? I watched my mother's retreating form through the window, remembering Christmas Eve, remembering years of dismissal and disappointment. No, I said, turning back to my customers. I'm going to make them eat cake. At exactly 5 o'clock, my parents walked into the Dreamweaver. The evening sun cast long shadows through the windows, and I'd closed early, sending my staff home. Only Natasha remained, pretending to clean tables while eavesdropping shamelessly. Would you like some tea? I offered, gesturing to the vintage tea set I'd arranged. It's Earl Grey. Your favorite, Mom. This isn't a social call, Dad snapped, but Mom put a hand on his arm. Tea would be lovely, she said, settling into one of the copper-backed chairs. Her eyes kept darting around the bakery, taking in the fresh flowers, the gleaming display cases, the wall of press clippings. I poured 3 cups, adding a plate of lavender shortbread. So, what brings you to my little hobby? Dad's jaw tightened. We need to discuss a business proposition. Business? I raised an eyebrow. I thought making cupcakes wasn't a real business. Things have changed, Mom said carefully. The firm is facing some temporary difficulties. Temporary? I took a sip of tea. That's not what I heard. I heard you've laid off staff, lost major clients, and your credit rating is in the toilet. How did you... Dad started, then his eyes narrowed. Brett, that little snake. Brett's a friend. Unlike family, friends actually look out for each other. Mom set down her cup with a clatter. We're here because we need a partner, someone with liquid assets and business acumen. I couldn't help but laugh. Business acumen? 3 months ago, you said I was throwing my life away. We were wrong, Mom said quietly, and for a moment I almost believed her. What you've built here? It's impressive. Very impressive, Dad added, though it clearly pained him. The mayor's daughter's wedding, the press coverage, the property investments. Ah, I interrupted. So this is about 3rd Street. Among other things. He pulled out a folder. We're prepared to offer you a partnership in the firm. Full voting rights, equal share with Michaela. I took the folder but didn't open it. And what makes you think I'd want that? Because it's your legacy, Mom insisted. Your birthright. My legacy? I stood up, walking to the wall of press clippings. This is my legacy. Those buildings on 3rd Street? My legacy. This bakery that you said would fail? That's my legacy. The firm is struggling, Dad admitted, his voice rough. Without an injection of capital, you'll lose everything, I finished. Funny how karma works, isn't it? From her spot by the tables, Natasha didn't even pretend not to be listening anymore. What do you want? Mom asked, desperation creeping into her voice. Name your price. I turned back to them, leaning against the counter. You really don't get it, do you? This isn't about money. This is about respect, recognition, everything you never gave me. We're giving it now. Dad's fist hit the table, rattling the teacups. No, you're not. You're here because you're desperate, because your perfect daughter, Michaela, can't save you, and your backup plan just bought the buildings you needed. Mom's face paled. The vacation house. That's how you funded all this. The vacation house you forgot was in my name? Yes. Turns out I'm pretty good at managing assets when people underestimate me. You planned this, Dad accused. All of it. No, you planned this. Every time you dismissed my dreams, every time you favored Michaela, every time you tried to force me into your mold. I opened the folder, scanned the partnership offer, then slowly tore it in half. I just adapted. You're enjoying this, Mom whispered, watching us suffer. Actually, I'm not. I gathered the torn papers. I'm just finally standing up for myself. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a wedding cake to finish. They stood, Dad's face red with anger, Mom's with shame. At the door, she turned back. What about family? She asked. Doesn't that mean anything to you? It meant everything to me, until Christmas Eve when you showed me exactly how little it meant to you. After they left, Natasha let out a long whistle. That was intense. It's not over, I said, starting to clear the tea service. They'll be back. And? And nothing. The firm can sink or swim on its own. I'm done playing their games. My phone buzzed. A text from Michaela. How dare you turn them down? They were trying to make peace. I typed back. No, they were trying to save themselves. Big difference. By the way, how's that corner office working out? Natasha read the exchange over my shoulder. You know what this calls for? What? She grinned, pulling out 2 forks. Revenge cake. We spent the next hour eating leftover wedding cake samples and planning my next property acquisition. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about succeeding so spectacularly they have to watch from the sidelines. They're filing for bankruptcy, Brett announced, bursting into my office early Monday morning. Your family's firm. It's happening. I looked up from the stack of invoices I'd been reviewing. Already? I thought they'd last at least another month. 3 major clients pulled out last week. Word got around about their financial troubles, and he made a diving motion with his hand. It's like watching dominoes fall. My phone lit up with a call from Michaela. I put it on speaker. This is your fault, she shrieked before I could say hello. You did this to us. Actually, Mika, you did this to yourselves. I just refused to save you. Mom's a mess. Dad hasn't left his study in 2 days. Is this what you wanted? I signed the last invoice, pushing it aside. What I wanted was a family that supported me. What I got was disowned on Christmas Eve. Funny how life works out. We're having a family dinner tonight, she said, her voice suddenly controlled. You need to come. Need to? I don't need to do anything. Please, she whispered, and for the first time since we were kids, I heard genuine emotion in her voice. Everything's falling apart. I glanced at Brett, who shrugged. Fine. What time? 7? And Zuriel? Leave your attitude at that bakery of yours. I hung up, turning to Brett. Want to be my backup? He shook his head. This is family business, but text me if you need an escape plan. At 7 sharp, I pulled up to my childhood home. The mansion looked different somehow. Smaller, less intimidating. Like seeing a childhood monster in daylight and realizing it's just a shadow. Michaela opened the door before I could knock. They're in the dining room. Try not to make things worse. Lovely to see you too, sis. The dining room was a museum of uncomfortable memories. Formal dinners, lectures about responsibility, countless disappointments. Mom and Dad sat at opposite ends of the massive table, a feast laid out between them. You came, Mom said softly. I'm curious by nature. I took my old seat. So, what's this about? Dad cleared his throat. We've made mistakes, serious mistakes. The firm, Mom started. I know about the bankruptcy, I interrupted. Brett told me this morning. Of course he did, Michaela muttered. We've lost everything, Dad continued. The house will have to be sold. The cars, the vacation homes. Home, I corrected. Singular, I already sold the lake house, remember? Mom flinched. We deserve that. But Zuriel, we're still family. Are we? Because the last time we had dinner together, you handed me disinheritance papers as a Christmas gift. We were wrong, Dad said, and the admission hung heavy in the air. About everything. The firm, your bakery, you. The Dreamweaver is worth more than the firm now, Michaela added bitterly. Happy? I pushed my untouched plate away. What do you want from me? A chance, Mom said. To make things right. To be a family again. And the fact that I'm successful now has nothing to do with it? We're not asking for money, Dad insisted. No? I raised an eyebrow. Then what are you asking for? Forgiveness, Mom whispered. A fresh start. I stood up, walking to the window. Outside, the garden where I'd once dreamed of having my wedding was overgrown. Another casualty of their financial collapse. You know what's ironic? I turned back to them. If you'd supported my dream from the beginning, I probably would have helped you now. But you made me prove myself by fighting you every step of the way. We know, Dad said. And we're sorry. Sorry doesn't fix years of dismissal. Sorry doesn't erase Christmas Eve. Sorry doesn't. Then tell us what will, Michaela burst out. Tell us how to fix this. I looked at each of them. Mom's perfectly maintained facade cracking, Dad's proud shoulders slumped, Michaela's mascara-stained cheeks. Time, I said finally. Time and proof that you've actually changed. Not because you need something from me, but because you actually understand what you did wrong. And until then? Mom asked. I reached into my bag, pulling out a small box. Until then, you can have this. It's a new recipe I've been working on. I call it Humble Beginnings. Dark chocolate with a hint of bitterness covered in gold leaf. Is this a joke? Michaela asked. No, I replied, heading for the door. It's a reminder. Sometimes you have to lose everything to appreciate what you had. Zuriel, Dad called after me. Will we see you again? I paused in the doorway. The bakery's open Tuesday through Sunday, 9 to 6. You know where to find me. Walking out, I felt lighter somehow. Not because I'd forgiven them, that would take time, but because finally, after all these years, they were the ones watching me walk away. The morning after the family dinner, I arrived at the Dreamweaver to find Michaela waiting outside, still wearing yesterday's clothes. Have you been here all night? I asked, unlocking the door. No, just since 5. She followed me in, dark circles under her eyes. I've been thinking about what you said, about proof. I started my morning routine, firing up the ovens and checking the prep list. And? I want a job. The measuring cup I was holding clattered to the counter. Excuse me? I want to work here. For you. She straightened her shoulders. I need to understand. Understand what? Everything. How you did this. How you knew it would work. How you're so confident now. I studied her face for any sign of manipulation. You've never worked a service job in your life. I know. She swallowed hard. I'll start at the bottom, washing dishes, sweeping floors, whatever you need. Why should I trust you? Because I have nothing left to lose. Her voice cracked. The firm's gone. My savings are gone. My apartment? She trailed off. Let me guess. Dad was paying for it? She nodded miserably. Fine. I tossed her an apron. Start by wiping down all the tables. Then we'll talk. For the next few hours, I watched my perfectly manicured sister scrub tables, mop floors, and learn to operate the industrial dishwasher. She didn't complain once. Your hands are bleeding, I noticed during the lunch rush. She looked down at her cracked red knuckles. It's fine. I deserve worse. Here. I handed her some hand cream. First lesson of service work. Take care of yourself or you can't take care of business. The bell above the door chimed and Mom walked in. She froze at the sight of Michaela in an apron, serving coffee to customers. What are you doing? She asked, horrified. Working, Michaela replied. Table 6 needs more napkins, Zuriel. On it, I called back, watching Mom's reaction. But you're a lawyer. Was a lawyer, Michaela corrected. Now I'm learning how to make an honest living. Mom turned to me. Is this some kind of punishment? No, I said, arranging pastries in the display case. This is her choice. First real one she's ever made, probably. I came to tell you. Mom hesitated. We sold the house. We're moving into a small apartment next week. Good, I replied. Maybe you'll learn something too. Your father's looking for work. Really? What kind? Anything, she admitted. But no one's hiring. Our reputation is exactly what you earned. I finished. Karma's funny that way. The lunch rush picked up and Mom watched as Michaela and I worked in sync, serving customers, making change, keeping the line moving. You're good at this, she said finally. I know. Would you consider hiring Dad? I laughed. Not a chance. But there's a new cafe opening in one of my buildings next month. I'll put in a word with the owner. As what? Dishwasher, probably. Same place Michaela started. Mom's perfectly maintained facade crumbled completely. How did we get here? By believing your own hype, Michaela answered before I could. By thinking we were better than everyone else. By treating Zuriel like she was nothing. Table 8 needs their check, I reminded her. On it, boss. She hurried off, leaving Mom and me alone. She's different, Mom observed. 3 days of honest work will do that to you. I started restocking sugar packets. Are you? Am I what? Different. Really different. Not just desperate for help different. She looked around the bustling cafe, at her youngest daughter serving tables at the empire I'd built from scratch. I'm trying to be. Then try harder. I handed her a business card. That's the cafe owner's number. Tell him I sent you. Dad starts as a dishwasher or not at all. And us? She asked quietly. Will we ever be okay? That depends on you. All of you. I'm done proving myself. It's your turn. After she left, Natasha came in for her usual afternoon coffee. Was that your mom I just passed? Yep, and that's my sister refilling salt shakers. Natasha's jaw dropped. Okay, what alternate universe did I just walk into? The one where Karma finally showed up to work. I handed her a fresh cinnamon roll. Want to help me interview potential tenants for the 3rd Street properties tomorrow? Wouldn't miss it. She glanced at Michaela. Think they'll actually change? Maybe, but that's not my problem anymore. I watched my sister carefully wipe down a table, paying attention to the corners like I'd shown her. My problem is teaching her how to make a proper latte by tomorrow's morning rush. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about making them see exactly what they missed out on, one coffee order at a time. 6 months after my sister started washing dishes at the Dreamweaver, I stood in front of my newest acquisition, a 3-story Victorian building on Main Street. The morning sun glinted off the fresh paint and restored windows, highlighting the gold lettering, Dreamweaver Enterprises. Not bad for a girl who just makes cupcakes, Brett said, standing beside me. Speaking of which, Michaela emerged from my car, carrying a box of pastries. She'd traded her designer suits for jeans and practical shoes, and her hands were permanently stained with coffee and flour. The contractors want their usual breakfast order. How's Dad doing at that cafe job? Brett asked her. Still washing dishes, still complaining, but he shows up every day. She shrugged. Mom's actually doing better. She got promoted to shift supervisor at the department store. And you? I turned to her. Ready for your own promotion? She nearly dropped the pastry box. What? I need someone to manage the new location we're opening across town. Someone who understands both the business and service sides. But I've only been here 6 months. 6 months of showing up early, staying late, learning every aspect of the business, and never once complaining about the work. I pulled out a contract. What do you say? Tears welled in her eyes. Why? After everything. Because you earned it. The hard way. The right way. The contractor called out from the building entrance, interrupting our moment. Ms. Zuriel, we need you to approve the final layout for the executive offices. Coming, I called back. Think about it, Mika. Let me know by the end of the week. Inside the building was a maze of activity. Workers installing fixtures, designers arranging furniture, IT people running cables. My empire was growing. Your father's here, my assistant announced, appearing at my elbow. He's in the lobby. I found him standing awkwardly by the reception desk, wearing clothes I'd never seen before. Simple, practical work clothes, his hands rough from months of manual labor. Nice building, he said gruffly. Thanks. What brings you here? He cleared his throat. I got offered a management position. At the cafe. Congratulations. I turned it down. I raised an eyebrow. Why? Because I haven't earned it yet. He met my eyes. You taught me that. The hard way. Did I? 6 months ago, I thought I was above washing dishes. Now I know every job matters. Every person matters. He pulled out an envelope. I wanted you to have this. Inside was a check. Small, but clearly his entire savings. What's this for? The vacation house. I know it was legally yours, but I want to make it right. I studied the check, then slowly tore it in half. Keep it. You'll need it more than me. Zuriel, please, let me fix something. You want to fix something? Keep working, keep learning, keep remembering what it feels like to start from nothing. I handed him the torn check. That's worth more than money. His eyes were wet when he looked up. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. I know, but I needed to hear it when I was struggling, not after I succeeded. Michaela burst in, excitement on her face. The health department approved the new location. We can start hiring. Oh, hi, Dad. Your sister offered me a job, she told him. Managing the new store. He smiled, genuinely smiled. Take it. Learn from her. She's better at business than I ever was. Speaking of business, Brett appeared with a stack of papers. The mayor wants to meet about that downtown revitalization project, and the Small Business Association wants you to give a keynote speech. Tell them yes to both. I turned back to my father. I have to go. Actual business meetings to attend. Of course. He headed for the door, then paused. Your mother. She'd love to see this place. Tell her to come by sometime, during business hours like any other customer. After he left, Michaela handed me a coffee, made perfectly, just the way I liked it. You're really not going to make this easy for them, are you? They didn't make it easy for me. I took a sip. But at least now they understand why. Brett checked his watch. Ready for that meeting? Time to show the mayor what a real business empire looks like. I looked around at my growing kingdom. The busy contractors, the gleaming fixtures, the proud logo on the wall. Everything I'd built from scratch, despite every obstacle they'd thrown in my way. You know what? I smiled. I've been ready for this my whole life. They just didn't know it until now. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's success so complete that your doubters have to acknowledge it every single day. One dish, one coffee, one hard lesson at a time. The local business awards ceremony buzzed with excitement as I adjusted my name tag. Zuriel Fernandez, CEO, Dreamweaver Enterprises. Beside me, Michaela fidgeted with her own. Regional Director. Stop fussing, I whispered. You've earned your place here. Did you know Mom and Dad would be here? She asked, nodding toward the back of the room where our parents sat, dressed in their new, more modest attire. They bought tickets like everyone else. I smoothed my dress. That's progress. Brett appeared, grinning. They're about to announce Business of the Year. Ready for your speech? Speech? Michaela looked confused. You think it's a coincidence we're sitting at the front table? I winked. The mayor stepped up to the podium, tapping the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's recipient has transformed our downtown, created hundreds of jobs, and shown us that success comes in many flavors, sometimes literally. Scattered laughter rippled through the crowd. Dreamweaver Enterprises started as a single bakery, defying expectations and conventional wisdom. Today, it encompasses 12 locations, multiple real estate holdings, and a commitment to community development that has revitalized our city center. I stood as my name was called, the applause washing over me. From the corner of my eye, I saw Mom dabbing at tears, Dad sitting straight-backed and proud. Thank you, I began, reaching into my pocket for my notes. Instead, my fingers found the torn Christmas Eve envelope from that fateful night. I'd carried it with me every day since, a reminder of where I'd started. I set it on the podium. Success isn't inherited, I said, looking directly at my family. It's baked from scratch, with equal parts determination and defiance. Sometimes the people who should believe in you don't, and that's okay. It just means you have to believe in yourself twice as hard. Natasha whooped from her table, making everyone laugh. But success without growth, personal growth, is just numbers on a spreadsheet. Real success is watching people change, including yourself. It's seeing your sister trade privilege for purpose. I smiled at Michaela. It's watching your parents learn humility through honest work. It's building something bigger than revenge. Mom's hand found Dad's, squeezing tight. Dreamweaver started as my dream of independence. Now it's a dream of second chances. For downtown, for our employees, for family. Even for those who once tried to write you out of their story. I picked up the torn envelope. This was my disinheritance paper. I kept it to remind myself of rejection. Now I'm keeping it to remind myself of redemption. Not just mine, but everyone's capacity to change when they are willing to do the work. The applause was deafening as I left the stage. Michaela hugged me, whispering, "That wasn't just about business, was it?" "Nothing ever is," I replied. After the ceremony, Mom and Dad approached our table. Dad spoke first, his voice rough. "Your speech? We don't deserve—" "It's not about deserving," I interrupted. "It's about growing. You both did the work. You're still doing it." "We're so proud," Mom said. "Not of what you built, though that's incredible, but of who you've become." "Even without the family legacy?" I couldn't resist asking. "You built your own legacy," Dad replied. "A better one." "Speaking of building," Michaela chimed in, "should we tell them about the community center project?" I nodded. We're converting one of the downtown buildings into a small business incubator and training center, teaching people how to build their dreams from scratch. "Like washing dishes?" Dad asked, a small smile playing at his lips. "Exactly like that." I turned to Mom. "We need experienced retail managers to teach some of the classes. Interested?" Her eyes widened. "You want me to—" "Teach others what you've learned, about humility, hard work, starting over." "I'd be honored," she whispered. Brett appeared with champagne, passing glasses around. "To Dreamweaver's next chapter?" "No," I said, raising my glass. "To new beginnings, earned, not inherited." As we clinked glasses, I caught Natasha's knowing smile from across the room. She'd been there from the start, watching my revenge plot transform into something more meaningful than mere success. "You know," Michaela said softly, "that Christmas Eve was the best thing that ever happened to this family." "How so?" "It broke us down to nothing, made us rebuild, made us real." I looked around at my empire. Not just the buildings and businesses, but the people. My sister, finding purpose in honest work. My parents, learning humility and pride in equal measure. My friends who believed in me when no one else did. "Real is good," I agreed, pulling out my phone to show them the designs for the community center. "Now, who's ready to help others get real too?" Sometimes the sweetest victory isn't in proving others wrong. It's in helping them become right.